Have you ever wondered if van life is ultimately financially worth it? From the approach of building your own van, living in it for a number of years, and then selling it? Hey, it's me again, Andrew. I am currently in a transition period out of van life and into a different nomadic endeavor, but I still have some information to share about van life, like a breakdown of the cost of our build and how much it sold for after 3 years of living in it full time. So stay tuned. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. I'm a brand new channel and it helps a ton in these early stages, thanks. We decided to pursue van life after the lease of our apartment expired in November 2019. The rent was already above average for the area we were living in, and our landlord decided to raise our rent another $200. I made a pitch to Heather. I said, I'm willing to build a van if you're into it. Basically, we've got three options. We can sign this new lease at the higher rent cost, move again into something more affordable for like the 10th time in our adulthood, or call your parents and see if they'll let us live with them so we can afford to build this van. I gave her the option. I'm a toured musician. I know I can live in a van. I'm gonna give her the reins on this decision entirely. She chose the van. We called her parents and asked if we could live there for 9 months while I build it out. They said yes, and this entirely new chapter of our lives began. Only it would take me more than 9 months, a total of a year and a half, to build the van. We moved into their place in December 2019, and although I'd been watching van life videos and van build videos for the last 5 or 6 years, it was time to stop speculating and start making some real decisions. Which van do we want? What layout has appealed to our lifestyle the best? And well, if you've seen my van tour, then you already know the answer to those questions, but I'll cover some of them again in this video. We had no idea the world was about to change. We bought our van on February 20th, 2020. And within a couple weeks of that, the entire state of California, along with most of the world, had shut down. It felt ironic that while everyone was trying to figure out how to make ends meet in this new paradigm, we had accidentally set ourselves up perfectly with the cheapest rent we'd had in years with our in-laws and the perfect project to keep my attention through the downtime of the pandemic. After taxes and registration, we paid $45,000 for a 2020 Ram Promaster 3500 Extended. I never seriously considered anything other than the Promaster, and especially the 3500 Extended version, because it was very easy for me to know from the very beginning that this would not work for us in a low roof van. I knew the build that I had in mind was fully fledged and would weigh quite a bit, so the 3500 was a no-brainer as well. And I knew we'd need all the space we could get if this endeavor was going to have legs long term, so the Extended was also a no-brainer. I got the Promaster because I preferred dealing with standard gas engine mechanics who are available all over the country if I were to ever have mechanical troubles. Unfortunately, I didn't have a single mechanical issue throughout the 28,000 miles we put on it fully loaded at about 8,000 pounds. I also chose the Promaster because we wanted to sleep the bed sideways. I have since walked that back, and I would not do that again if I were to build another van. And you can hear more about that in my things I would do differently if I built another van video. But I would still get the Promaster because I did have an overall very positive experience with it. In a way, those decisions were a lot easier than the ones that would come next, like a fixed bed versus a dinette conversion, or which fridge to buy. And to be specific, the actual van purchase price was $38,000. It's just that the regulatory costs in California are so that another $7,000 was added on top of that in taxes and registration. You will probably save from having purchased and registered a van in a different state. Next up, let's break down the cost of the build, starting with the electrical system, which was our greatest expense. The main electrical and solar system, excluding all of the wires to the appliances and the appliances themselves, totaled out to $8,000. That $8,000 covered the cost of 4 Battle-Born batteries, a 3,000 watt Victron inverter, a solar charge controller, a breaker panel, a fuse panel, an alternator relay charging system, and the thick wire gauges necessary to connect all of those components. The batteries alone were the single biggest expense of the build at $1,000 each, $4,000 total, because they're lithium ion and brand name. You can definitely save money on your build by not buying brand name. And you know what's interesting? If I built another recreational vehicle, I would definitely do 6 batteries and maybe even 8, which is really saying something if I'm willing to pay several grand more for it. And I think it really is worth it to have more time between any unnecessary electrical top-offs. The wires leading from the system to the electrical components of the van were not supplied in that initial electrical system purchase. I had to determine the amperage of each connection and the length of the wires to those connections in order to determine a wire thickness for each component, the fridge, the fans, AC unit, outlets, etc. That's how those calculations are done. Length of the wire and amperage of the load. The fridge was $2,000, the AC unit was $2,000, and the wiring, outlets, and other electrical components totaled out to another $1,000, bringing the total cost of all things electrical in the van to $13,000, putting it damn near half the total cost of the build. The next biggest expense I would estimate was the cost of lumber.
Oh, let's see, lumber.
I built most of the van out of Baltic birch plywood, a dense ply that doesn't compromise on cheap layers. Great for woodworking projects, but not cheap. When I started the build in March of 2020, the cost of Baltic birch plywood was $75 a sheet, and by the end of the build out, it had gone up to $160 per sheet, nearly doubling in price over the first 2 years of the pandemic. The total cost of wood came to $1,700. The compost toilet was a big one at $700 itself alone. It is the sea head toilet. You can hear more about it in my other videos. I was very happy with it, but unfortunately, the company went out of business when the owner passed away, and its competitors make more expensive, but in my opinion, inferior products. You're looking at over $1,000 for the toilets that are on the market today, and I would encourage building your own over buying one of the products available, because the products that are available are just not practical, again, in my personal opinion. Okay, now let's go through all of the other miscellaneous stuff, because most of the rest of the build expenses were accumulated through many small purchases. Heather took the time to make an Excel spreadsheet for insurance purposes, which I can now use to break down the rest of the costs for you. Like the interior hardware, which totaled out to around $2,800. This includes the swivel seat, lagoon mount, propane tank, furnace, upholstery, and mattress, down to smaller things like a trash can, thermostat, or Velcro. Or another category called piping totaled out to $1,200, and that includes water tanks, piping, fittings, and propane system piping and fittings. These individual items are not cheap at all, but you may be able to save by finding a specialty plumbing shop in your area, which I did not do. I bought them from typical hardware stores. Insulation came to about $500 between the Thinsulate that we used to fill the gaps and crevices and the polyisocyanate boards that we used to cover the larger areas. All of the little stuff for our bathroom area totaled out to about $700, including the fixtures, caulk, and paneling. Even though I've already covered the cost of the fridge in this video, she put that in the kitchen category, which also includes a blender, Tupperware, pots, pans, and silverware as well, and that totals out to $2,200. The fridge was most of that amount. What's left over is all the miscellaneous hardware and the tools. The miscellaneous hardware includes everything from tape, the airlift kit that kept the back end of the van from sagging, nuts, bolts, screws, washers, sealant, magnets, and drawer slides, and that totals out to $3,500. A significant portion of those I needed to buy in odd sizes individually, and for that I would go to Ace Hardware, and for all the times that I needed hundreds of something or many screws, I went to Home Depot. Some of the Ace Hardware locations have exemplary staff that simply put them far above others when it comes to asking questions and getting things done. The tools that I needed for the build include a table saw, jigsaw, sander, impact driver, and drill, clamps, and a few other unusual tools like a solar wire clamp tool, a propane fitting flare tool, a heavy gauge wire cutter, and a rivnut gun. The tools for the build, including all these and more, totaled out to $1,500. I am so happy with all these tools and I love using them. I bought Ryobi brand and I had no problems with anything but the sander, which I definitely used and abused and had to buy a second one. I am very happy to have all these tools to use for future projects, and I've already done a number of things with them, like overhaul my parents' garage, which I did in the last video. Go check it out when you've got some time. Their garage was packed full of junk and I was able to clear a lot of it out and build shelving using these same tools, and it felt really good. Now that I have these tools, I have cravings just to build random things. Okay, well, believe it or not, that's everything. Drum roll, please. And the total cost of everything included in the build is $26,000, bringing the total cost of full van life attainment to $71,000 for us. $45,000 for the van and $26,000 for the build out and tools. If you're interested in a very thorough and specific breakdown of our build costs, or if you're interested in our professional wiring electrical diagram that I had made, both of those are available in the description for a small fee. Much gratitude to anyone making a purchase of those resources, as I am still a brand new channel, and what it does is help me continue sharing my personal experience and valuable insights with you guys. Okay, now for the second part of this video. How much did we sell the van for after living in it for 3 years full time and bringing the odometer to 28,000 miles? We listed our van in August of 2024 on Van Life Trader, Facebook Marketplace, and Van Viewer. Within a month and a half, we had 2 serious buyers on our hands, and both came in from Van Life Trader. I should add that there was a full month of silence after listing our van, and I say that so that you can adjust your expectations accordingly. I would actually not recommend Van Viewer at all. We were contacted by a lady on Facebook that told us she had listed her van on that site, and so we did as well and paid the fee that they require. But when we asked more questions of her, we didn't get any answers on her personal experience with the site, so she might have just been a promoter of the site. No serious buyers came from Van Viewer or Facebook Marketplace, and very few interested messages as well. So that's just my perspective on where to list your van if you're getting ready to sell it. The first of the potential buyers were a nice couple who were living overseas but thinking about moving back to the States and continuing the van lifestyle that they once had here. But I think our layout was not ideal for them, as they wanted a 2-person seated desk setup so they could both co-work in the van. That was one big regret of my build, which I covered again in that video, things I would do differently if I built another van. Like I said, a month and a half after we listed the van, we had been contacted by them and one other interested party as well. Luckily, that other party was very interested and asked a ton of questions, which I just answered as truthfully and clearly as I could. Turned out that he was actually the perfect buyer for the van, and I really think the van served his purposes. He flew into our city on November 8th, 2024 and took the van off of our hands for $75,000. We had initially listed it for $90,000 and dropped it to $80,000 after a month because we were super stoked about what we've gotten into next, which again, I'll get to soon on this channel. Beforehand, he asked if we could install some new tires, some badass BF Goodrich Falcon tires, which we happily obliged because he paid us in advance. He needed these because he was flying in and wanting to make a long drive back to where he lived. Okay, so to break it down, 2020 through 2021, we spent $69,000 to build the van, added an AC unit a year later for $2,000, bringing the total cost to $71,000, and in 2024, we sold it for $75,000. We more than broke even, and as we all know, with used car values, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Yes, it is. It is pretty good.
I mainly attribute this to taking my time building the thing. I didn't skimp or cut corners. I wanted everything to look as nice as it possibly could despite my lack of experience with building. It took me a year and a half to build it. Part of that time was spent earning the money to pay for the build. We had initially asked my in-laws to live with them for 9 months, but ended up living with them for a total of 2 years, moving into the van in August of 2021 and watching the van drive away with the new buyer in November of 2024. A little more than 3 years later. We bought the van on a loan from a local credit union. We paid for the build out itself with a little bit of savings and our monthly income, and paid off the loan for the van after living in it for about 2 years. If there was anything that I would do financially different if I built one again, it would be exhausting the used market before resigning to purchase a new vehicle, especially the used market in states with a lower cost of living. I would be patient and keep an eye on various used markets in case I could get a good deal on a pre-owned van with low mileage. And I think there is some real financial merit to buying used over new, setting aside some of the costs that you would have spent on a new van for repairs on a used one, and barring an engine replacement, probably saving overall. I covered a bunch of other things I would do differently in a video I already mentioned that would bring the build cost down even more, so be sure to check that out after this. Thank you for watching. I hope this data is of some use to you, even if your build looks different from ours. If you'd like to purchase our exact cost breakdown or the electrical system diagram, the links are in the description.
What one man can do, another can do.
What one man can do, another can do.
Say it again.
What one man can do, another can do.
And again.
What one man can do, another can do.
It is true that we are capable of building the life we dream of, no matter what fear is telling us. And if you don't yet believe, keep watching. And make it a peaceful rest of the day, because I love you. This could be the last time we see the van.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready for the next chapter, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the last time ever that we see the van. That's life.
That's life.
Oh, the people say.